Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Definitely take a look around. Let me know what you think and subscribe if you like the content. And if you are a repeat viewer, welcome back. Don't skip ahead, please. Hold on a second. Don't go anywhere just yet. I do want to talk about a few things before we get into this tier list. Now, this is huge. This is massive. I don't think we've seen a full tier list like this before yet. I've done a top 10. I've done some things here and there, but this is a full tier list with all 189 Toons in the roster for Looney Tunes. Now, let me just say, disclaimer here, all right? This is my opinion, and it is based on my experiences in the game since global launch. So this is just me telling you the characters, the Toons that I see in the game and where I feel they belong. Now, this is the first tier list, so it's going to continue to evolve. I will continue to put updates out. But the goal here was really to create a list that's useful for beginners and veteran players to help prioritize spending resources. Because for most players, spending resources are very finite, and you want to make sure that you spend resources in the right Toons. So, this list, when I put this together, and I've been working on this for a very long time, I looked at synergies for each Toon. I looked at synergies with other teams. I looked at, are they locked into a specific team, or will they fit in a number of different teams? I looked at how will they fit in different game modes. I also looked at how often I use them or how often I see them used in the game. So when we get in here, all 189, we can't talk about all 189. That would take forever. So I'm going to go through. We're going to discuss the different tiers. We're going to pick out some Toons in each one of them and give you a good feel of how to use this tier list. Now, the tier list will eventually be downloadable. It is not going to be right now because there's still some fine tuning and things that I need to do to it, like formatting and things like that. So, disclaimers out there. The reason my goal for this is out there. So let's go ahead. Let's jump into the list and kind of walk you through my process, my brain here as I was putting this together. All right. So here is the tier list. I haven't filled in all of the names of the different tiers, but we have Looney Pantheon. Those are the gods of the game. As you can see, I only have one in there right now. I think Starpharaoh Marvin is the best Toon in the game by far. Well, maybe not by far, but definitely the best Toon in the game. Then we have Looney Royalty here, and then you go into your typical A, B, C, and D tiers. I'll come up with some names. If you want to help me name these different tiers, definitely put some suggestions in the comments down below. Also, the Looney memes. These are just kind of a funny thing for for some of the Toons that we just really never see, or why are they in the game, I guess kind of is where I go, right? So one thing to mention here with the different tiers too, just because you see somebody in a D tier or C tier doesn't mean they aren't useful somewhere in the game, all right? Again, we discussed kind of how I looked at each one of these. So right now, the only unrated character that we currently have right now is Super Coyote. As of the recording of this video, he doesn't come out until tomorrow. So in the next update, next month, then you'll see Super Coyote in there. As I mentioned before, there's 189 total Toons in the game right now. We're almost at 200. That's pretty cool. That's a ton. That's a ton of different Toons in the game. Also, eventually you'll see the color coding, the typical color coding that I use, and that is used in all types of mobile games. Blue for your tanks, red for your attackers, and then green for your support. So let's go ahead and walk through some of these. So the Looney memes tier was just kind of funny. I thought it was a funny thing to call it. All of these Toons in here, in my opinion, just aren't used for much, if anything at all. And I don't think I ever really see them in anything. So like Sheriff Porky, Waiter Elmer, Bellboy Daffy, all these different Toons in here. So this is just where I think, in my opinion, the fodder goes. Cowgirl Granny, Cowboy Sylvester. So, but when we get into the D tier here, this is specific to Toons that we we could probably use somewhere in the game, but it's not used they're not used very often, very finite. So like for instance, I have Handmaiden Granny here. Handmaiden Granny, I don't really use very often. I don't see used a whole lot. Every now and then I do, but she's good for speed down. And she's very useful for that R&D, so I see her used a lot in there. So she's useful, but I don't feel that she's a toon that you're going to put in a ton of different teams or is very critical to like PTLs and things like that. I think teams and toons that are needed for PTLs will kind of bubble more up towards the top in the higher tiers there. Solid Tin Coyote. So one thing you'll also notice is all of this color right here. These are just to be easily identifiable. These are all the legendaries that have this kind of gold color here and where I feel they belong. I think Solid Tin Coyote was kind of fell a little flat. Petunia Pig, not bad, but I don't think she's critical in the game either. I think Hugo up here, we moved him up just a little bit. He's okay. But when we take a look at the other toons in this D tier, some of them can be pretty useful. Outlaw Sylvester is pretty useful. Martian Bugs and Starseeker Lola, you can use them from time to time. Especially in the we see a lot of these toons being used in the region events that come around. They're okay, nothing fantastic. Witch Doctor Hazel. Witch Doctor Hazel is good for your damage over time team. I don't really use her there. I know she was part of the Spotlight, one of the Spotlight teams that came around. I know some people do use her for that team. But I don't see her used much anywhere else. So, and I think really that's the first time I'd really ever seen her used in that team, but she does well in that team also. Porky Pig, Chef Porky. I don't know. I wrestled with Chef Porky going between D tier and Looney Meme tier because I don't know if he's ever used. So, one thing too, as we continue to work on this list and do updates every month and we get more player feedback, because I do take some of that into consideration as well, and then more experiences that I have as we continue to play through the game, you'll see this stuff move around. Just like any other tier list, you're going to see toons and characters move around up and down the list based on kind of what the current big thing in the game is. Now, one thing that this game I think has done very well with is kind of watering the meta down a little bit. In a lot of games, you see a very specific meta, and a meta is just a specific team that is meant to go together, that if you want to excel or if you want to progress further in the game to the top of the leaderboards and things like that, you need this team. I think in this game, we see that kind of watered down a little bit, and you see that in the form of like your dodge team does very well, your knights team does very well, your crit team does very well, your athlete team does pretty well. I mean, so there's more than just one meta in this game. Synergies are very important in this game, and any other game that is similar to this type of game. Synergies are very important and something that you want to keep in mind as well. So just kind of want to call that out also. The C tier, the C and B tier is going to be where the bulk of your toons fall, because a lot of them are going to be used in a bunch of different areas and team compositions and things like that. Whereas your D and your Looney Memes really are very restricted as far as how much you can use them. So you got toons like Zoot Suit Daffy up here, Flaming Succotash, Batsuit Wily. Joe Monday's pretty good, that instant crit. He can find his way onto a crit team. We got Hippity Hopper down here. So I've got a number of the legendaries down here just because when you kind of take a look at the strength of the legendaries and what they're meant to do, some are better than others, right? So that's where a number of these fall down. Cheerleader Wiley, really good toon, great on the athletes team. Really put her in the C tier because she's really only very good in that team. I think you may be able to put her in a couple other teams, maybe, but I think where she really shines is in that team specifically. I got Pepe Le Pew in here. Ghost of Christmas Taz is here as well. Masked Avenger, Nasty Canasta, Gothamer, Witch Hazel. Witch Hazel is good for your damage over time team as well. And then we start getting into the B, A, and these other tiers. So this B tier here is going to have just a little bit more of ones that we see. Egghead, I'll tell you, I'm wrestling around with this a little bit, moving Egghead between B and C, but Egghead has that instant death ability, which is absolutely awesome. It takes a while to build up, so for the longer fights, Egghead is going to be great and fits pretty well. Isn't really tied to any specific team, so you can fit Egghead the Knowing into well, actually quite a few other teams and work pretty well. But you really have to protect him and allow him to build up the, I can't remember what they call him, but build up his ability so that he can do the instant death. Scarlet Pumpernickel has been good for a long time, so has Merlin and Siegfried Elmer. Super Rabbit, we're starting to see more of that damage immunity team come out, so that team's getting fleshed out a little bit more. I don't think they're as fantastic as some of the other teams that we have, but we are getting Super Coyote, who plays into that mechanic as well, so we'll see kind of how this whole team works together. We are seeing more and more of teams being fit together a little more intentionally. This game has done very well with kind of staying away from that and allowing more plug and play. But we are seeing some more of these, like the superhero team, the villains, the supervillains team. The Lunar team specifically is very much locked into itself as a team. Also, Iron Mutt, pretty good. Granny, I like the whole House Party team is pretty much here. And the main reason for that is these Toons here can plug and play into a few different teams, but they're really great by themselves. They're like probably one of the best teams, one of the most synergistic teams, or I don't know. We're starting to see a lot of teams actually be really good with synergy and working on each other. But for the longest time, they were the best synergistic team in the game. Sylvester Jr. Leopold has been around for a really long time. Bugs and Daffy. Daffy almost knocked him down because of the rework that they did, but they took that back. He's got his crit back. So I'm going to leave him in the B tier for right now. Samurai Sheepdog. Marvin is in there. Yeti Gossamer. Cannoneer Canasta. So you can see the rest of the list here. Elf Daffy. A lot of the holiday tunes are in this tier of the list specifically. Master Speedy. Presto Pig. Jester Bugs. Great for your dodge teams. Daffy Hood, been around since the beginning of the game. Great AoE tune right there. And then we start getting into the A tier here, and you really start seeing more of these tunes used more and more specifically. You got Speedy Gonzalez, you got Taz, QB Daffy. I think I see a couple in here I'll probably move around a little bit. Ninja Ralph is fantastic, so is Evil Granny. Lola Frostbane works very, very well. Gridiron Gossamer is awesome in a number of game modes as well. I use him specifically on my defense team along with Star Pharaoh Marvin. And they do awesome, and they very rarely does anybody score too many points on the team that I have right there. Contender Sylvester, great as well, great tank, very hard to take down. Sylvester Slazo has some nice synergies and mechanics, applying damage over time to tunes that have debuffs on them. Baseball Bugs is great, awesome for a crit team, does very well with the athlete team, and the athlete team is really shaping up to be a very good crit team as well. I've got my constant crit team out there with Opat and Monster Tweety, Yokai Taz and Ralph the Vampire works very well. They synergize very well, but the athlete team is really shaping up to be a great team as well, especially with QB Daffy here. He has been a great addition to the team. Lunar Toro, very much locked in. I played around with putting him down into a B tier or some other tier, but he just does very well. He has a lot of different mechanics within his kit. Obviously, that plays off of the Ascended mechanic in the game that started out with Lunar Petunia. And you get them together with just those three in the team. I can't wait till that fourth one comes around. But that team works very, very well together. And then we get into the Looney royalty tier. You got Tweety the True, Sylvester the Brash. You got most of the Knights team here. Bugs the Brave, fantastic leadership. He gives defense up. He's got damage immunity. He heals. He's a fantastic tune. He stuns. He removes turn meter. Got Monster Tweety. That's really great for that crit team we were talking about. And Archon Elmer has been really good ever since he was originally launched into the game. He's one of those tanks. He's kind of I want to call kind of a passive tank, but whenever an attacker attacks, they have to attack him, which is awesome. So he's one of my tunes that are on my defense team for Arena as well. It's actually Star Pharaoh Marvin, Archon Elmer, Gridiron Gossamer and Marvin right here, which is Marvin, high-tech Marvin, I call him. He does really well with flipping buffs to debuffs, removing debuffs on Mastermind Toons, things like that. So he works very well in a couple different teams, Mastermind team, Space team, things like that. King Daffy, awesome. You build up all the different buffs on him, and he does more damage, which is absolutely great. He also gives taunt to the Toon with the highest defense, I think. I think that's how that goes. Similar to what QB Daffy does for the athlete team. And then obviously we have Looney Pantheon, which is Starpharaoh Marvin. Fantastic Toon. The more buffs he gets, the more damage he does as well. He's also a nice support, so he helps keep the team up. And his piercing damage is just absolutely incredible and very difficult to beat when you go up against a team with him. You want to take him down first. If you can. A lot of people build up around him. So, I mean, if you take a look at my team alone with him in there, it's 3 tanks and then him. Really to protect him, continuing to give the buffs and the piercing damage up to do the massive amount of damage that he can do. So there you go, everybody. We have my official. It's not a Scopely official, but it's my official Looney Tunes tier list. I really would like your guys' feedback on this. Definitely let me know in the comment section. I'm going to continue to work on this and hopefully make this a list that is useful for everybody. All right, everybody, there you go. That is it. As always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.